Welcome to the Tim Castle Show, where I sit down with courageous individuals doing inspirational things around the world. Whether it's AI, crypto, mindset, leadership, negotiation and sales, I've got you covered. I sit at that nexus of disruption and change. I'm loving every second of this. I really do believe this is the most abundant time that we've lived in. And if we harness what's going on correctly, we can build businesses that are going to transform our future and your lives. So come with me on this journey, meet the people. I pull back the curtain, I find out who they really are. I started off building this podcast for my sons as something they could look back on later in life and see the conversations that their dad had with people that he respected and admired, but most of all, get the lessons. And now I'm sharing those lessons with you and the reasons that people had done things, the ambition, the passion, and the hardship and their vulnerabilities. And I actually really enjoy it. This is one of the most special times as I get to sit down with people that I really would love to chat to and ask them the questions that are burning in my mind. If you are the same as me and you're pushing the limits and the edges of what you do, please like and subscribe to the show. It helps me tremendously to get new guests on the show and expand that reach so we can help more people together. Afia Sengupta, welcome to the show. You work in the world that most people only see in films. Like, I am so excited about having you on the show. Like, hidden assets, crypto, false identities, due diligence. You are an investigator, a detective. And I have been looking forward to this, to sitting down with you. And I know the audience is going to absolutely go crazy for some of the stories you have. I'd love to just unpack how you got into this, right? You are a financial detective, is that right? You are CEO of Cat Investigators.
Well, first of all, Tim, thank you so much. I am so excited about being here as well, and looking forward to this conversation. So I appreciate your invitation. Yes, I am the CEO of Cat Investigators. We're a full-fledged intelligence firm, and yeah, I've been doing this for over almost, I don't know what, 15 to 17 years now, literally. It's a part of my life, and I'm excited. I'm always happy about helping people.
Well, yeah, and I think if I had a issue, the thing that drew me to this is you're like, I don't know, Jason Bourne, or like you're some like my one of my favorite movies is Catch Me If You Can, right? And it's all about, false identity and DiCaprio and all of this. And this is your world, right? But you came from a world of criminal litigation
Mhm.
and investigative journalism. And then you decided to go set up Cat Investigators. Like, what pulled you into this world in the first place? Like, what got you piqued your interest and made you go, look, I'm going to go be a detective?
Yeah. So, I was always doing investigations, even in, during my tenure as an attorney. I used to investigate my own cases. I always had the capabilities of investigating the cases that I was on. So this was not something new.
Okay, so it's like a natural
It,
transition.
it was a natural transition. The journalism aspect of it was also, something that I was always doing on the side. I was always writing. And then, a little bit before COVID, I opened up my media entity as well. And so this was always a part of my life. Uh, However, I was an attorney before. I still am a lawyer. I just don't practice. And that stemmed from a lot of things where I realized, when you're ambitious and of course you want to help people, but you're also ambitious and you have so much going on, the productivity starts diminishing. And I didn't want that impacting my ability to do what I want to do, which it had started. I had an excellent career as an attorney until a certain point of time. Um, After which I realized, and we'll talk more about this, that, I was starting to focus more on admin and accounting and so many other issues that cropped up. Running your own firm is a whole other. You're in negotiations, you can say, tell that. Running your own business is a whole other deal. So yeah,
You wear many hats, right? And you start to
wear
have to
many,
do
many.
things that aren't necessarily out front, leading and training and doing whatever your business is, right? Instead, you're doing entrepreneurial hats like billing and invoicing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not just billing and invoicing. Sometimes, you also need to know your audience. You also need to understand who to help, who needs help. Or, are you just basically extending 10 hands to people, right? And that's not the right approach. You're not essentially making an impact. Um, Meanwhile, in the world of investigations is entirely different from that aspect. So,
I see. Yeah, you're right. You need to stay at the forefront of your craft. And if you're being pulled into more and more admin, you're not necessarily growing and then making the impact you want to make. Whereas with your own business, you can go specifically to the problem. So, okay, I watch a lot of these kind of movies, as I alluded to, like investigators. This is so cool. I'm blown away by having you on the show. This is awesome. Investigators were often portrayed as being completely detached and quite cold in a way. Like, how do you stay compassionate, and what is the role of compassion when you're trying to understand the facts and there's emotion involved and people have been like, talk us through a situation. Like, what for the audience is a situation that you typically get involved with?
I mean, I think I'll answer this question in parts. The first question that you asked is, investigators are generally perceived as cold people, or and look, the thing is, their job is to present the facts in an unbiased manner, right? And essentially find out what happened and present what happened as it is,
That's
rather than
truth.
tweaking things. And a lot of times we work with law enforcement, so the very people who expect compassion, we're actually unable to help them if we just try to tell them what they want to hear, rather than telling them, that, hey, this is what the truth is, this is what we found out. We're not therapists, right? And the moment we try being one, there's a problem right out there. Then we're not doing our job. So that is about, investigators being cold. And obviously I try not to bring that into my personal life as much as possible. And so that's how I try to balance it. Now, as far as compassion is concerned, see, this is where investigators also need to learn that, yes, you do need to present the facts as they are. You do need to investigate in an unbiased manner. You do need to do your surveillances and not cut, edit, and delete much. However, without compassion, you are not able to become an empathetic person. And without empathy, you can't interview the subject. You can't try to get them to talk to you. You cannot pull information out of them because, again, you're not looking at things from their lens. So you kind of tweak things according to how you want, which a good investigator should never do. So there is a balance of compassion and being cold, and direct and straightforward. It's just how that balance is exercised or when, right? And I'll give you an example of obviously over the years I've worked on thousands of cases, thousands. But there are some that, essentially kind of strike out to you, right? Like right out there. And you think, oh my God, I was not thinking about this, right? This
Mm.
is not what I was what I thought would be the case. So recently I actually had I was working on a crypto uh tracing matter. Somebody lost millions and millions of dollars, and the client is a crypto professional themselves. So when they came to me, they said, "Oh, there's a client of mine. This is what happened," and and I was like, "Oh, but this person seems to be way too involved with their client. There is something that's not right about this." And it's just oh my God, I think that the client is shady here. Maybe the client is lying about losing money and all of that. That's where my mind was going. And then I was like, no, you know what? Be empath, have empathy. Step into their shoes. they are chasing you. They want to hire you. Their client has lost a lot of money. There's something going on, but of course, don't just think in that, have that one track mind. So then I figured out, and I realized, I talked to the client. I tried to ask them, hey, really, because I need to know what's happening in order to help you. And I realized it was not the client's client, it was the client themselves that lost that much amount of money. But because they're a well-known name in the industry, they were like, oh my God, word comes out. Even if law enforcement officers get to know that it's me, and it's a romance scam, how embarrassing. My name's going to be, my business, my credibility, everything's going to go away. And it was a romance scam. I mean, it was a deep fake type of a situation. He was in,
So talk
some,
us through that. What happened? So this is a very wealthy guy that's invested in crypto, or he's just in the crypto space, and then
well,
he's
no, he's also in the space, invested
mm,
plus also
high
like
profile.
high profile. Technically, like they say, he should have known what he was getting into. But
So he's a
people.
target because he's so high profile and he's got a high net worth. He's a target, and someone's scamming him, making him think that they're in love with him. Is that right? Or
Well,
they want money? How do
uh,
they extract that? Like, what is it?
so these are organized crimes. They're not filled with spelling and errors anymore. Like years ago, you would see, oh my God, this is such a shabby job. Now it's syndicates, and they're stealing billions and billions of dollars. It's almost an industry in itself. So the person is talking to is probably a hired model, or simply
Hmm.
an AI generated individual stealing somebody else's identity, which happened in this case. Um, and it's possible.
An
AI,
AI generated like
that's what a
individual
deep fake is.
stolen an individual's identity to then trick them into
Just
handing over
clone
funds.
their faces and all of that. So then when, the client's searching for the person on the internet just to make sure that they're talking to someone legitimate, that they think that they actually are, because, the person who they're
Right.
talking to looks exactly
They're talking to this
like that
person.
person, right? But they're not. So and that's why this industry is now even more dangerous and very polished, and investigators play a bigger role now. But it's sad, right? Because
Oh my goodness.
these criminals, the masterminds behind this, the scammers, and again, wealthy scammers, billions of dollars, like I was saying, they target vulnerable people. If you've seen this show called The Tinder Swindler,
I
you'll
have.
some of this stuff started very differently, and it's just moved and delved into something entirely different right now. And people are unfortunately vulnerable. They could be rich CEOs, or they could be, just simply lonely people. But coming back to your question, I realized, oh my God, I was just, thinking of all kinds of things. I thought that maybe he's stolen money, and then I was biased, right? And you cannot do that when you're trying to help somebody, or actually even just do your job. So there has to be a balance of compassion. You cannot be judgmental, yet you have to be cold, and you have to be straight, and you just have to present the facts as they are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They're paying you for your expertise, and deviating from how you would process an investigation is not doing the best for that client. In either
Correct.
way, then you're going to find out if something dodgy is happening on either side of the table because you're living in congruency with your own values and the values of the company. And that
Mhm.
comes from your experience, which is what they're paying you for. So, what's the hardest personal lesson you've learned from working with the victims of this type of fraud, defendants, their families, like high pressure situations?
I think the hardest personal lesson for me has been, don't get emotionally attached while you're trying to help them. Because of course their problems are, it's too much for them. But if you make it your problem, you're trying to help them, but not, be a
Mm.
professional. be an absolute professional. Sure, you can be a friend at times when they need it, but don't make sure that they're not relying on you to the extent that you now they expect you to lead their lives for them, and this happens because the mental health is a very, very important and critical issue. I'll give you another example. And this was also back when I was litigating, but I was also investigating my own cases. This was a massive hate crime case in New York, massive crime case, and everyone was reading the newspapers and thought, "Oh my God, this guy is crazy. He's gay. But yet he hates other homosexuals. He just goes and creates a scene at bars and stuff like that." And no one realized the extent of mental health issues that he had, the extent of it. There were days when he did not even remember who he is, blanked
Mm.
out completely, right? And he used to talk to himself. I spent hours and hours investigating the case, looking into what happened. Why were they charging him with hate crime? Hate crime is a big charge to have a second degree, especially. And then we realized the real perpetrators actually knew that he was not crazy, but he had all these massive issues, and he was, they were giving him drugs
Oh my God.
without him realizing it, and they would pay him $10, not 10,000, which he was thinking in his head, to go and actually throw stones and break glasses at gay bars, while he was gay himself, actually. But for that matter, he didn't even realize what he was. So he needed 2 years. He's still going through treatment. Uh, the thing is, his family at a certain point they lost all hope, but I'm so glad I was able to help them. But then, I also stopped being a lawyer. At that point, I was like, there were days when he would run away from the hospital and they would text me, "Oh my God, he's run away from the hospital." Then I realized, Afia, that's not your job. Now you're not helping them help themselves. So that's the hardest personal lesson that I've learned. Don't get emotionally attached, which is also partly why I decided to quit litigating, because when I started doing that, it was hurting me more than helping me. And so, you have to set your boundaries correctly.
It's almost like you were taking on the burdens of of the repercussions of the situation rather than being able to get the truth from the situation and leave it at that and recover the assets or whatever it is.
Yeah, and that's that is very common among criminal defense attorneys, investigators, who are dealing with these things and issues all the time, and we're dealing with vulnerable victims all the time. It just tends to happen. So drawing healthy boundaries is very, very important as well.
How interesting. So in this case, they were abusing the the person of interest because they were taking advantage of his mental health issues to then create a scenario that was backfiring on him in the public, and you had to figure all of that out.
Yeah.
Wow. So when someone hears the word private investigator, I'm from the UK. I watch a lot of UK crime shows,
Hmm.
Harlan Coben, all this stuff. We see the car parked outside the house. Like, is that what it's like, or when you're on surveillance, or what's modern investigation like now in
So,
2026?
that's another thing. When you watch all the shows and the movies and all of that, of course, they glorify it quite a lot. I mean, when you're doing surveillances, you require approval from the courts. So please, I would like to tell all the private investigators in the world, don't think that just because you're a private investigator or you have that license that you can simply go and just be an undercover agent, or just go do surveillances and keep on people's private properties. Surveillances mean things that you're doing in non-public areas, or in spaces where people expect privacy, or you're going undercover, and you do require court approvals for that, which are granted in only certain exceptional circumstances. Um, and yeah, I mean, surveillance it does happen. Yeah, you do park your car outside. In fact, parking your car outside is not necessarily a surveillance. That's a public parking spot, and you're free to watch people walk in and out. So yeah, that's very common practice. However, unlike how it is portrayed in movies, investigators don't make it very obvious, because then you're not doing your job, right? If you're going to park your car right outside somebody's house and just keep watching who's going in and out, yeah, that doesn't work. People are smart as well, and so then you're not able to do your job. You obviously, send different people, go and use different cars, change your clothes, um, park at different spots. So there are different techniques. And investigators never make it that obvious when they're investigating cases.
I see.
So,
So this is a cool thing. When we were chatting before, you telling me that you are a licensed investigator, so you have the same powers as the law enforcement. You
I
like
mean,
you work with the FBI. You have access to things that perhaps a normal civilian, like you can't. You can go. What can you do in terms of going deeper than Google search or LinkedIn to find out about someone? Say I want to
yeah.
hire someone. I'm not sure if they're shady or not. I don't know why I'd want to hire them, but like I need you to check them out. How are you going to do that? And what powers do you have?
I mean, obviously, our powers are a lot more than what anybody, what an average OSINT investigator will have, and that's why the license. Obviously, we are not law enforcement, so we cannot go arrest someone. But at least in the US, and typically, in many other jurisdictions, private investigators can work as bail enforcement agents automatically, which means they do have arresting powers when someone is skipping court. Uh, but
Hmm.
they still have to call law enforcement and say, hey, I've held this person up. I need you to come and just basically, be with us while we're doing what we're supposed to do. So that in itself is a power. However, when you're not talking about being a bail enforcement agent, you have access to a ton of data and resources, a ton of data and resources. As an investigator, I have access to LSEG. I have access to all the possible databases, which normal people don't have. You don't see that information on Google. That allows us to validate and authenticate so many things. I can easily point out if a passport is fake, for example, or if a person is lying to you, for example, or that's not, if they gave you an address that is not theirs. Because if something is updated on the credit bureaus, whether that's in the UK, because we're based in the UK and US and Asia as well, if something is updated on the databases, I will see it right away. So for example, if someone gets a new phone number and it's updated on, the system, I'll see it right away. That's not something that you see on Google searches, of course. So our access is huge. Also, because of all these years of experience, OSINT is not just Google search, right? You have different. So, for example, when I'm actually tracking a vessel, aviation tracking, there are so many different. Most people don't even know how to actually track the vessel number or understand or pull that together, or what databases to actually access, even if it's publicly available, to point certain things out. So then that's a skill that we have on top of the access that we have. As far as working with law enforcement is concerned, not every private investigator does that. We do that specifically because of the years of experience we've had. And also we're government contractors in the US on sam.gov. So that allows us to work with federal agencies, or get contracts with them. And law enforcement, on and off, you're serving as a mediator between your client and law enforcement in other jurisdictions. So you kind of know how law enforcement reacts to a certain situation. You do the investigations, you hand it over to them and say, hey, validate our investigations, but we've pretty much done a lot of the work for you. So that helps them, that saves their time, that expedites cases. And yeah, as far as our access is concerned, pretty much the same, but not the same. Obviously, I'm not, in the US, private investigators, we can even kind of do fingerprinting work if we get that outsourced work from the federal government, hence the license, hence the special license. Many other jurisdictions don't have like a licensing exam or a Department of State credential. In New York, And in the States, we do have that. I do have a Department of State ID and, credential. I am credentialed. So if I had to basically go ahead and take up outsourced projects on fingerprinting people, I am allowed to do that. So
And does that mean you're doing it without their knowledge, like, hey, they picked up this glass, or are
no,
you literally pinning them down and getting their
well,
fingerprints?
first of all, that's another misconception that people have. You cannot fingerprint anyone anywhere in the world without their knowledge, even law enforcement.
Really? Okay.
I mean, law enforcement can ask you to do that, but they can exercise their constitutional rights in most countries, unless you're living in a country where you don't have that kind of right. You're North Korea or something. But typically in most jurisdictions, fingerprinting someone, you can pick their strand of hair from a crime. I go to a crime scene and I find somebody's hair, I can pick that up and I can do the DNA sampling with court approval. That I am allowed to do as a private investigator if appointed on a case, whether privately,
Hmm.
whether through the government, whether through private court orders. But you cannot fingerprint anyone without their permission. That, yeah, just doesn't work that way.
I see. So,
So,
what are the subtle signs that someone's hiding assets or shell companies or presenting information in a way that isn't who they are?
so somebody like they always say, right? When someone is not talking too much and you have to dig deep into them to learn more about them, they're probably a rich person does not, shout out loud, "Hey, I'm rich." But somebody that actually keeps saying that, "Hey, I've acquired a ton of wealth doing da 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 da," sometimes they're not really wealthy. You'll see that they have a lot of debts and a lot. And I'm not saying that this is always the case, but this is what I've observed to be the case often. So how do you determine that someone has shell companies? So think about it, right? Like when somebody asks me, "What does cat investigators do?" Like, yeah, we're a full-fledged intelligence firm. When someone asks you, "What do you do? What does your company do?" Yeah, we assist other corporations with their negotiations. It's very clear, right? But when somebody cannot answer that question, or they're doing too many things under the same company's umbrella. "Oh, we're an exporter," but then an exporter should have a history, a certain kind of history of dealing with certain kind of goods, right? Like a diamond exporter, for example, would have done this for years. It's typically family business in that field and domain. So when it's blurry, you don't know what the company does. It's a random technology company. XYZ Technology LLC exists, but you don't, there's nothing much that they're able to tell you. That's a bad sign in the first place, right? Like, why do you have an LLC? And then other people go like, "Oh, I have many different LLCs." Oh, many different LLCs, probably trying to do that to save on taxes, or for just basically moving money around, or they have a benefit. A lot of these narco guys, for example, convert dirty money into clean money using shell companies, and they don't own those directly. They hire, others, many others, to sort of how do I say?
They diffuse it then.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you hire someone, pay them some money, set up this shell company, you're in charge of it, is that right? And then you can't get to me because I'm bribing you to keep me, I'm paying
It's
you.
not even bribing you. You're indirectly linked now, right? You're not
Mm.
directly linked. You're funding that company, but that's not your company on paper. So there's no paper trail that essentially links any illegal activity to you. But, that's at a much later stage. Your question was, how do you initially determine that, oh, this company is likely a shell company? There are many factors, but one among them is when there's no clear description or proof of what do they exactly offer. If somebody's saying that, "Hey, we are a professional accounting firm," but there's no history of any accounting work, you're mostly seeing, like, unlicensed staff members who are just there, then possibly shell company. But then
Red
it
flag.
also, you don't see that a lot in professional service industries that require certain type of licensing. You do see that a lot in, like, the food and beverage industry, entertainment industry, real estate, big time. Oh my God. It's, I think, the number one industry where, there are a lot of shell companies that primarily exist. So, in those companies, if there's no clarity on what they do or established history, then yeah, I start looking into those right there.
You start digging, and then someone's shouting how they got rich and talking way
Yeah.
too much compared to an normal rich person that, yeah, you're right, they just want to be private, left alone. So when we flip this to like a crypto scam, what's the first, or where does the money go first?
I mean, like, look, now you have so many exchanges and you have the ability to convert your crypto assets into fiat money as well. And different things. It's just technology is improving really on a daily basis. You can't really say, oh, where does the money go? But crypto, the jurisdictional issues always exist. Money is moving in between countries and quick and fast and in seconds. So that's a real challenge that investigators have right out there. Because when money moves like that, and money can move like that, when it's stolen, when your devices are hacked, even your offline devices are hacked, cash, it takes a little longer. Crypto, you're just moving fast and quick. And cash will actually land in an account belonging to someone. Crypto can actually pass through third-party custodian wallets, where it's just, those wallets are just basically intermediaries. And then there's a problem right out there, which is why tracing becomes very important, and which is why, protecting your money, I'm not saying it's not important when it's cash, but when it's crypto, it's even more challenging, and you should be even more cautious, because once stolen, recovery is just so hard, because now you're dealing with multiple jurisdictions, third-party wallets, and so on and so forth. So yeah. So but I will say, where does the money land? Right now, it doesn't land anywhere. It keeps rolling around.
It keeps moving
Until
fast.
until you can actually get law enforcement, and law enforcement is the only agency that can actually freeze funds. Us as investigators maybe can get a temporary freeze somehow, but we work with law enforcement agencies to essentially get funds frozen. So until that
Mm.
happens, money's basically just, it's not landing anywhere. It's just moving around.
Yeah, it's floating around. And that's why I would come to you, because I've got $10 million that's gone out the window, and I need you to build the case to be able to get the law enforcement agency to freeze the funds to then be able to recover it.
Fast and quick.
Very
So
fast. What should I do then? If I notice that my money's gone, what's the next thing I should do?
So what we essentially do is, a lot of people don't realize that you still have to, like, when a crime occurs, the first thing, report it, right?
To you, Afia? Hey, Afia, it's gone. Or like
Well, it's
report it to the
not.
police.
No, but report it to the police. So, and this is the thing, right? People still think that certain kind of cases just go to the local police. There are agencies, like in the UK, you would go to the NCA. NCA constantly encourages people to file complaints as soon as their money is lost, or they think that they're becoming victims and stuff like that. And also, we understand how to file those NCA complaints, right? Like what content to put. A lot of people will, I've seen clients just write a random paragraph and leave it at that. Yeah, NCA is not going to look into that because you may be a scammer, right? So you have to basically be very detail oriented, put the specifics out correctly, put the amounts and wallet addresses out correctly, tell them who you are, and all of that. So, we always, if you come to me and say, hey, Afia, I've lost $10 million, the first thing I would say is, right away, we're helping you file that NCA complaint.
Hmm.
And we are following up with NCA at our end to see if they can appoint an officer pretty quickly on the
Mm.
case. Meanwhile, my tracing expert is doing the tracing, preparing the tracing reports and the addresses, seeing where the monies are moving, how much, and we're preparing something that the law enforcement can send. And remember, law enforcement doesn't always have to send subpoenas immediately. They can send a simple email, simple letter to put a temporary freeze on the funds. And so initially we just focus on getting that temporary freeze. So your money is not moving around, you know? And that's our step one. After that, obviously, you have to trace the source. You have to make sure that your client is actually honest about it. Funds are clean, not commingled with other people's funds. And then there's a whole process, but this is the most important.
That's step
Yes.
one. Yeah, I mean, I fear I'm feeling better already. I mean, if that was you in control of this, I can feel the relief already, even though it's a fake scenario. Just where you're going with this, you can see how much better that would be than me going and trying to, it feels way too hard to try and do any of that yourself.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. Why do people do this themselves? Because look, they've been scammed. They already don't trust the system. And then when they go to the
Yeah.
local police stations, the police officers aren't helpful because they don't know much about this themselves. They're not the right agency to deal with this, right? And so by then, by the time they actually take it to the right agency, unfortunately, your money might just be completely gone or not traceable, right? So, and that's why training local police officers, that's an initiative we've been working on too. They're training law enforcement officers because people at the ground level need to know what to do right away, you know? Like, okay, when someone comes with a complaint, did you go to the NCA? This is their website. This is their link. These are the details you need to put. And so that's very important in terms of educating. But talking about the victim themselves, look, they've lost all hope. They don't trust people anymore. So they think that, let me do this myself. I don't want to trust people anymore. I don't want to give people my addresses anymore. I don't want to be scammed more, and I don't want to waste my time. Plus, I also don't want to be embarrassed because people, unfortunately, when they lose that kind of money and they are scammed, they're embarrassed, very embarrassed. And I urge people to be bold enough to admit it that they made a mistake. Happens to the best of us, and just report it and be strong about it. But unfortunately, we're dealing with vulnerabilities here, right? So
And it can happen to anyone. What does a scammer understand about human psychology then that people are missing, or what should they look out for? Like what doesn't the victim realize until it's too late and it's happened that the scammer understands?
a lot of times these scammers belong to the same vulnerable communities. So they understand exactly what to tap into, what to exploit, because they many times they're a part of the same um same.
They understand how it is to be lonely. Is that what you're saying? So then they
They
understand how to
understand how it
speak
is
to
to be
that
lonely.
need,
They
or
understand, yes, most of them, most of the big scammers, I would say, who run the show, they understand that. But you also have to understand a lot of the people who are actually doing the scams are trafficked victims. Unfortunately, they're forced to do this. And that's why I say this has become an industry now. So now what we see is that most of these people who are actually committing the crime, they're forced to do it. They're kidnapped individuals, put in scam compounds, or who are just basically lynched into doing this. Oh my, you're going to lose your life, or your passports are never going to be returned, or we know where your family lives, and that type of stuff. So you really have to understand that somebody that actually starts scamming people, when they become big, they've gone crazy. Now the billionaires are running this as an industry. They're no longer, and this is why it's different from what it was 10 years ago. These guys are no longer your, average, not trained scammers. They're industrialists. They're operating proper industries and have proper staff, proper accounting, proper teams. And a lot of times they understand what vulnerability feels like because they've come from that uh, themselves. It's like, when you're on the streets, you can either become a junkie or you can pull yourself out of it and do better in life, right? Which way can you go? You can go both ways. And then when you start by drug addicts, or drug sellers and resellers, they start really at a lower level. But then when they become greedy and it just keeps escalating, then it's all about the money. It's all about the money, and you're a completely detached person.
well, yeah,
Complete.
I feel like I completely get it. If your family's in threat or being your life is being constantly threatened, you suddenly become very vulnerable, or you learn the skills to become believable very fast because it's a whole new level of stress, and there's the impetus to learn that behavior, that skill set, and because you are yourself, as you're saying, this this vulnerability part that you're tapping in, you are also in that world. So therefore, you know how to emulate that to that person in a way that convinces them that it's real.
Yep. Yep, and unfortunately, the scammers, especially the trafficked victims who are forced to be scammers, they're trained, and also you have to understand when the billionaires who are actually running the scams at the higher level, they hire people, right? Like for example, they hire models all the time to talk to people on video for these romance scams, or these investment scams and stuff like that. You pretend to be an insurance agent, you clone a law enforcement officer and suddenly start threatening people. You have to understand that they are also hiring. It's an industry, right? And they know who to hire, because somebody that's struggling for cash, hey, buddy, quick money for you. I mean, will you just do it? And that other person has become so detached in life, would be like, yeah, we'll do it. Because that they're struggling. So they're like, oh my God, do I worry about myself, or do I worry about, do I, have my conscience on, and just say that, hey, I'm not going to do it. And a struggling person may, again, it depends on which direction you want to start walking towards. A struggling actor may say, oh my God, I'm struggling for food, I will just do this. you know
Integrity's out the window.
Integrity's out the window, and unfortunately I see that more now in my line of work. And as you interview people, they're like, excuse my language, nobody gives an F about me.
Mm,
So, why should I care? I need to eat. Bread
that's
is
where their mind is. Yeah. And then you've got the billionaires on top that have commercialized this. This is a
right.
slick, smooth operation. There's no spelling mistakes. They've got
Exactly.
scripts that actually convert. They've run this playbook.
Exactly. It's an industry. And at that point, the right or wrong aspect is actually out the window, even for the higher end owners who are running this. Again, it's billions of dollars, right? It's almost
Mm.
now becoming as big as the narco industry itself. And again, in the narco industry too now, well, because we investigate criminal cases as well. What is different than what in the 80s? The narco guys had a lot more integrity, especially when it came to their word, money transactions, and so on and so forth. Narco guys, when you talk to them, they tell you all the time, we would never backstab each other. You know,
Those boundaries.
most of them never touched drugs themselves. They sold drugs, but they never touched drugs. They not even marijuana. Most of them don't even drink and smoke. That has changed now.
You're talking about like Pablo Escobar type stuff.
Yeah, the 80s, the 80s and the 90s. And now you have more junkies getting into the industry and changing the dynamics, and becoming more and more greedy and losing that integrity aspect, which is why you see a lot of chaos in that industry too. But you're also seeing that in the financial scam industry,
Well, yeah.
where,
Do you think that's because we've now become more digital?
correct,
So
not
it's
just,
less person to person. It's more, it's easy to stay. But like if I've got an AI face on and I'm
yeah,
just convincing you that I'm this sexy woman and whatever
yeah,
it is, like it's all digital, right? So it feels a little bit less detached perhaps than I've got to go into that bar and I've got to sell these drugs and I've got to
yeah.
go and do this deal.
I think that is a very, very important cause. But also, of course, as and when the world becomes more digital, we're losing the personal touch, right? And that's not AI. AI is a tool. Yeah, again, law enforcement uses AI too. So it's AI versus AI. In fact, I actually am having a talk today. I'm presenting at the Hong Kong AI Week, where we're talking about the same thing. AI is a tool, and it can be used to combat the exact same crime that is being committed using AI. So it's not the technology itself, it's about how disciplined you are while using it. So people are losing personal touch. Kids don't go out and play anymore. They don't, human interaction is becoming minimal. People want to remain in their own zone. So obviously, when you're not interacting with other people, you don't step into their shoes. You don't think that you need to have the conscience to do the right thing. And so when that's gone and all you're learning about is how to make more money, and that's the most important thing, then everything else is thrown down the drain. Plus, you also think, oh my God, other people are going to do the same thing. So why do I need to have the integrity? So that's the mindset, especially among teenagers now. And so you see more younger people committing these crimes.
Oh man, yeah, I'm so glad a organization like yourself exists, that you are here and you're determined and you have ambition to go make this a better world. And I really do this. Like, I could talk to you forever, Afia. I could talk to you. I know that you have to go and do this presentation at Hong Kong AI Week. Have you got time for some quick fire questions?
Sure.
Just some quick answers, some punchy one-liners, one
Absolutely.
line to whip through a few questions here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, welcome to quick fire round. I'm just gonna move.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
What's the biggest red flag that people ignore?
Uh, the biggest red flag that people ignore really is ju their judgment, their judgment, their gut feeling.
What's one myth about crypto crime?
That it is, that technology is actually helping scammers more. That, again, as I mentioned before, technology is just the tool. So crime is being committed by somebody, a human being, right? So that's very important.
What's one myth about private investigators?
That you can randomly go ahead and, go follow people and do surveillances and bug people's houses without, the necessary court approvals, or that you have the authority to do that. Or like said, you can fingerprinting people without their consent. No, you can't do none of those things.
What's the most powerful investigative skill?
I think your analytical skills are very important. Your ability to sort of match different findings and just create a pattern. I think creating a pattern is very, very interesting and very challenging at the same time.
What's the most underrated due diligence step?
Confirming and validating people's phone numbers and addresses. People think it's simple, but it's not. Because you can make mistakes right out there.
Tell us about a quick experience, a book, or something that shaped your experience of the truth.
I think my my career as a criminal defense attorney did shape a lot of that, because I actually met people, heard stories. So I can't actually point out to one person or one book that shaped who I am today. It's a combination of too many things. So, but like I said, my experience while working with criminal defense firms, definitely. Right. I should say Rikers Island. Rikers Island, the most notorious prison compound in New York. Yeah, you do see a lot out there. You're physically, and before COVID, we used to actually physically go there. So
What's your definition of courage?
I think being courageous is not just being overconfident, it's being confident, and it's being strong. It's a balance of strength and confidence, not strength and overconfidence. You have to be cautious, but strength and confidence.
What does a great investigator notice that everyone else misses?
A great investigator notices smallest details, tiny details that other people ignore. And a lot of times we look at things in the reverse order. So if this is a water bottle, where if it's a water bottle, people look at the packaging, the expiry date, the which company is it. We look at the color, We look at the fonts, especially because we do a lot of handwriting analysis and stuff like that, right? So I'm clearly like, okay, so it's a legit manufactured bottle of water, right? Like, so I'm looking at the fonts, I'm looking at how things are written, I'm looking at how heavy the bottle is. So yeah.
I love this. Truly, this has been a really powerful conversation. I think it's
Fine.
certainly going to help people like in the world, right? If they've had a scam or they want someone to be checked out fully, like go to cat investigators, talk to Afia. Like it's certainly opened up my world to a whole new way of being and what to do if you get taken advantage of. I mean, this is catch me if you can in real life. I like I love it. So thank you because I mean this is just more than just crypto and problems in the criminal world. This is about human psychology and everything that we're about on this show. So thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on and
So thanks
telling us
for
more
having
about
me.
this. No, very
Huge
much, very much. It's been great.
I think what you're doing is also very, very important.
We'll get the message out there. We'll make sure that, and I'll put everything to do with your business
Yeah.
in the show notes. And I know that you are a member of another community. You serve on the board of the Coalition Against Financial Crimes in the US, which is brilliant as well. So we'll get all this in the show notes so people can.
Also, the Association of Women in Crypto, I'm the Singapore chapter president. So they're
Oh,
doing
awesome.
a lot of work as well. So yeah, it's a joint effort, and all of us need to work together on combating crime.
Together, we'll make it a safer world. Thank you, Afia. Magnetic Influence. So it's got off to an amazing start. It's out in the UK, the US, and now globally. The thing about this book is it's going to teach you how to have what I call hybrid negotiation skills. So you're going to have AI fluency, which means you understand how to use AI with efficiency, how to get the speed, the insight to prepare you for every single negotiation, and how to fuse AI into the business world as a professional so you can make more impact per hour. You essentially become an advanced AI leader. And the other side of the equation of the hybrid negotiator is human connection. As there's more intelligence in the world and it becomes abundant and free and easy, influence is going to become super scarce. So human connection, the ability to establish trust in the room, and the magnetic framework, which is meaningful impact, authenticity, gravitas, generosity, and gratitude, networking super connector, energetic vibration, trust, intuition, and connection. I'm going to show you how to master all of those. So when you go into a high stakes negotiation, you're the calmest person in the room. You have the power to influence and you become magnetic because you're adding so much value to the people around you that instantly they're wanting to bring value into your life. And that is what negotiation is. It's about creating more value for both parties. It's about having integrative negotiation where we expand the size of the pie together and we're really negotiating the structure of the negotiation, the deal terms, the value that we can create for each other to establish a long-term partnership. Magnetic Influence is now out in the world and it's changing lives. The modern negotiation playbook, the one book that fuses AI and negotiation, meaning AI and human connection skills, that if you master those skills, you are going to become super attractive to the workforce, to your business, to be an entrepreneur, and just as a person to be around. Influence in the modern day world starts with magnetic influence. You can get it now at all the different stores, or you can go to www.magneticnegotiator.com to use my negotiation agent, or magneticinfluencebook.com, and you can download all of this as a Claude skill that you can apply in Claude to every single conversation you have, every single conversation and email you write.